Welcome back to another FPL team selection, this time at a Double Gameweek 35, where I've activated the wild card after an eventful Double Gameweek 34. There's still one game left at the time of this recording, Brighton versus Manchester City, but I'll talk about my performance as every single player in my 50-man squad has featured, so I'm only going to go down a little bit in rank from this point onwards. You'll see my updated rank in the updated Wildcard Team video and also in the deadline stream, so be sure to tune in for those pieces of content as well by smashing the like button and subscribing to the channel. Let's get this video to the 200 likes, and be sure to check out the other links in the description below for the Patreon, Championship Discord server, the FPL League, FPL Challenge, Drafthound, as well as Spotify and Amazon Music. Leave a 5-star review on those podcasts as well. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. I rarely make goalkeeper transfers, but this one has certainly paid off. David Raya got 10 points against Wolves in the first game of this double game week. He got maximum bonus, he got 3 saves, and that was a monstrous haul in the end. And he followed that up with a clean sheet in the London derby against Chelsea as Arsenal won 5-0. So Arsenal have delivered in this double game week. There's one big team that haven't, as I'll get onto very shortly. But I bought Raya in Gameweek 33. He got 1 point against Aston Villa, whilst Dubravka kept the clean sheet. So that was a deficit of 5 points, but this 16-point haul, whilst Dubravka got 3 points on my bench in Gameweek 34, has certainly meant that this transfer has been a great one. And the only goalkeeper that outscored David Raya in Gameweek 34 was Pickford, with 2 clean sheets against Nottingham Forest and Liverpool. One of the worst moves I've made in recent weeks is buying Virgil van Dijk, and I had some regrets about not buying him in Double Gameweek 25 because he scored in the second game against Luton Town, but that's now 2 double game weeks for Liverpool where they haven't kept a single clean sheet in any of those fixtures, and they've only kept 1 clean sheet out of the last 13 games across all competitions, and that was against Atalanta in the second leg when they're already 3-0 down on aggregate. In Double Gameweek 34, Van Dijk got 2 points against Fulham, whilst Trent Alexander-Arnold scored a great free kick, and he managed to get 10 points across both games in the double game week. But Van Dijk got a yellow card in the Merseyside derby, conceded twice, and got 0 points against Everton. So 2 points in the double game week is horrific to say the least. And unless you went for Trent, all other Liverpool defenders and even Alisson in goal have been huge disappointments once again in a double game week. The second defender was Zabani, who got a surprising clean sheet away to Wolves, who scored in the 100th minute. But that was ruled out, and there was a few disallowed goals there for Wolverhampton Wanderers, and I think those that went for Bournemouth defenders were quite fortunate, unless you went for Kirkes, who was sent off, and that made for a very nervy ending, but Bournemouth held on and won 1-0 away to Wolves, and Zabani got a bonus point in that fixture. My third defender was Saliba, and doubling up on the Arsenal defence was the best thing I could have done for this double game week. Saliba got 14 points, he got 8 against Wolves, so 2 bonus points. In the second against Chelsea, only 6, but it's still more than welcome. It's better than the other defenders combined. So Raya and Saliba have really carried my defensive line, but I'm also quite thankful to Zabani as well, because my fourth defender also blanked another poor transfer in Ait-Nouri. He wasn't able to start the first game against Arsenal, but came on as a substitute, and in the second game he matched that total with another 1-pointer by getting booked for an argument and also conceding. So Ait-Nouri and Van Dijk, the biggest disappointments of my defensive line, but luckily enough Raya, Zabani and Saliba all delivered in Double Gameweek 34. The midfield was very underwhelming, and Mohamed Salah encapsulates that, the most popular captaincy option in this game week, and he was a substitute in the first game against Fulham, came on for 1 point, and in the second game he blanks against Everton, had some chances but was largely ineffective in the Merseyside derby. And the same goes for another transfer I made in Gameweek 34 in Luis Diaz, who also blanked. He got a yellow card in the second game, and in the first game he started the match. He played quite well against Fulham, but no goals or assists to show for it. So the only Liverpool midfielder who delivered in this double game week was Diogo Jota, who missed the second game due to injury and will be out of Gameweek 35 and potentially Gameweek 36 against Tottenham Hotspur. My third midfielder is Saka, who was also quite quiet in my opinion. He only got an assist against Chelsea in that 5-0 win. 9 points is still a good return, and for those that captain Saka, you'd be quite happy compared to Salah's return, but it's still quite underwhelming for 2 of the most popular captaincy options to not even reach 10 points in this double game week. There were high expectations for them, but at least Saka delivered something, unlike Mohamed Salah. And to complete this midfield, one of the best transfers I made for Gameweek 34 was Eze, and I bought him for Anthony Gordon, 14 points, and the bulk of those came against West Ham with a goal and an assist. Elise did really well in the first match but didn't start in the second, which is something that I anticipated and a reason why I didn't go for him, but it would have been a much better transfer than Luis Diaz. And of course, Diogo Jota, another midfielder who did extremely well. Martin Odegaard, who I recommended all week, delivered in both games against Chelsea and Wolves. If I had a free Arsenal slot, Odegaard would have been in my team, and even Kai Havertz delivered a brace against his former club in Chelsea. So a lot of midfielder returns across the board, but in terms of those in my team, only Saka and Eze delivered. Thankfully though, I made a transfer up front that kind of made this week bearable, and it secured a green arrow. If I didn't buy this player, it would have been curtains for the FPL season. One of the best forwards in FPL this season has been Dominic Solanke. He's been extremely consistent. 8 points isn't a great return, but he did the same thing back in Double Gameweek 28. He scored against Aston Villa in the first match to put the Cherries ahead. They ended up losing that match, but it's still an 8-point return across both games. He blanked against Wolves, but Bournemouth won that match, and Solanke has been one of the best strikers in the Premier League this season, so I'm very happy to have owned him for a lot of this campaign. In Gameweek 35 against Brighton, he's a good option, but on the wildcard, a lot of us will be selling him, especially if we're bench boosting in Gameweek 37, but Solanke has done his part, and he can still offer more for the last few game weeks of this campaign. But the star of the show was Mateta. I sold Haaland to the Eagles striker only a couple of minutes before the deadline, and that has resulted in a 25-point swing because Haaland will miss out against Brighton, and I took a -4 hit to make this transfer possible, to make it a -8 hit overall to buy Diaz, Eze and Mateta. The two Palace players really delivered, and in the case of Mateta, he scored 4 goals across both games. That's back-to-back braces. He also got an assist, and he got 6 bonus points overall, and it's the third biggest haul by a forward in FPL in a game week. Only Aguero and Rooney are above Mateta in that pecking order. 29 points is gold in a game week like this, and of course there were some big returns flying around. Ben White at the back, Odegaard in the midfield, and Mateta in the forward line. Let me now show you who I captain, talk about the rank and also the game week points at this stage of the game week. So I'm all set. I'm not going to gain any more points at this moment in time, so I'm going to have to wait until game week 35 to start scoring some more, but my rank will drop a little bit after the Man City versus Brighton game. As soon as I made the transfers, I did regret selling Foden instead of Palmer, and I would have actually started Foden this week. Aït-Nouri wouldn't have come on off the bench, so if Foden can stay quiet, I'll be quite happy with that because I always backed him against Brighton. I'm hoping he stays quiet, and that will be quite good for me. Erling Haaland will miss out. I'll talk about the latest injury updates about Pedro Porro, Haaland, and other key assets like Cole Palmer and Malo Gusto in the team selection portion of this video. But let's now finish off this Game Week 34 review with the captaincy and also the Game Week points that I accumulated. I got the captaincy absolutely wrong. Salah blanked in both matches, 6 points overall. That is just a really poor return. Even if I went for Saka, I would have been quite content with that. It's 9 points, it's something at least. But with Salah, it's just been pure disappointment. This could be the last time we see Salah in a double game week in FPL. Let's see how things pan out in the summer and going into next season. But he has been very underwhelming in recent weeks. Even when you look back to the haul against Man United, that came from a penalty towards the very end of the game. So I have to say Salah, since that return from injury, has been a very poor FPL asset. I got 102 FPL points with the -8 hit taken into account. So it's a 110 base score, -8 points, 102. So I did manage to get over the 100 point mark for the first time this season, and I have gone up in rank to 165k despite taking a -8 hit. So I have gone up by around 40,000 places, and I'm just shy of 2,100 FPL points for the season. Be sure to join the league. There's a link in the description below for an auto join, and you can also see the league code on the bottom right hand corner, and you'll see it throughout most of my videos on the left hand side. But let's now move on to the team selection portion of this video, and I've made a lot of changes. I believe it's 13 at the moment, and it could be more as we approach the Game Week 35 deadline. Many positions are up for grabs, and the goalkeeper position is no exception. Ederson is currently my choice between the sticks, and the reason why is because I look at the Man City defenders, Ruben Dias, Gvardiol, they're probably my top 2 picks in the defensive line, and I'm not so sure if either of them start every single game until the end of the season. But with Ederson, he should start every single match. I have no concerns about rotation there. So at the moment, I'm going for Ederson away to Nottingham Forest, but I'm also looking at the likes of Vicario, David Raya, who has no double game week, but Arsenal have the best defence, the best underlying numbers, and they can keep clean sheets, as they've proven in some very difficult matches this season. But at the moment, I'm going for Ederson. He's very expensive. I never really go for him in FPL, so this will be an interesting time for me. But I think he's one of the best goalkeepers because of that double in Game Week 37 and some great fixtures to round off the season for Manchester City. It's quite strange to wildcard and have several yellow flag players, and Malo Gusto is one of them. He missed out the game against Arsenal due to a knee issue, and Pochettino hopes that he's back very soon and that isn't anything serious, but there is a chance he misses the game against Aston Villa and potentially that London derby against Tottenham. So with Gusto anyway and all Chelsea defender assets or Petrovic in goal, you don't expect a clean sheet in this double game week, but with 2 double game weeks in 35 and 37 and some good fixtures, I still think Gusto is worth it on the wild card, but he might have to be dropped to the bench. Let's see if we get any updates before the Game Week 35 deadline. My second defender is currently Burn. My preference in the Newcastle defence would be Fabian Schär, but there is a difference of 1.1 million, so I'm going for Burn at the moment in terms of budget, but if I can find a way to gain that extra money, I will go for Fabian Schär in the heart of this defensive line at home to Sheffield United. And finally, I'm currently going for Pedro Porro as my Spurs defensive coverage. He's definitely the best option by far, with a doggy missing the rest of the season due to having a surgery. And in goal, you can go for Vicario, perhaps even double up on that Spurs defence, but you won't really expect any clean sheets, especially in Game Week 35 or 36. But the best time to triple up on Spurs, as I've said all week, is in Game Week 37 when they face Burnley at home. Yes, they also face Man City at home, but they've got a good record against the Citizens at their home stadium, and they round off the season in Game Week 38 against Sheffield United away. But I still like the Spaniard as an FPL option despite the lack of clean sheets. This defensive line might not look the greatest, and I do recognise that. There are some good options on the bench, and you could even consider starting Arsenal defenders or Raya in goal away to Tottenham, but that's a North London derby, a bit similar to what we saw between Everton and Liverpool. There could be a desperation, a pure hatred to stop their main rivals, their local rivals, from winning the title, and that could be at play in Game Week 35, and that's why I still think 2 or 3 Spurs players is worth it on the wild card, and if they don't deliver this week, they probably will in Game Week 37 and Game Week 38. There will be changes in this wildcard team by the time we get to the deadline stream, but this is my current team, and let's see how much of it will stick at the very end. It's also worth noting that Pedro Porro is in training, and the same goes for Richarlison and most Spurs assets for that North London derby, and there are 2 more injury doubts in my FPL team across my 50-man squad, and one of them includes Cole Palmer. And I say injury because, yes, he missed the game against Arsenal due to illness, according to Mauricio Pochettino, but his comments after the game did suggest or hint at something a bit more serious. He said, "We don't know when he'll return. We need to assess tomorrow. We will see the squad that we have. We need to deal with the situation." So that doesn't seem too promising. I think he'll start in both games in 35, but it's not looking too good at this moment in time. If it is an illness, then I would have no concerns whatsoever, but I am kind of questioning that at the moment, and it could even be an injury. So let's keep our eyes peeled over the next few days, and I'll keep you updated in the updated wildcard team and also in future FPL content like the deadline stream. Going into the other midfielders, I think one of them is a must-have in Phil Foden. I know there's a lot of clamour for Kevin De Bruyne right now, but if I had to pick, Phil Foden wins this all day long. You could go for both in the midfield. I don't really mind that so much, especially for Game Week 37. But with De Bruyne, I'm not so sure if he starts every single game. In fact, I probably would suggest he doesn't. But with Phil Foden, I think he does until Man City have the title wrapped up. And if they don't have the title wrapped up and it goes to the last game week of the season, just expect Phil Foden to start every single game in the Premier League. Now, the third midfielder is Anthony Gordon. I'm going to triple up on Newcastle, and Gordon has been a great FPL option for me. I had him as early as Game Week 8. He was returning double-digit hauls against Man United and Chelsea at home. He's done it recently against West Ham, although he got a red card after getting 3 goal contributions, and in the following home match, he got a massive return against Tottenham Hotspur. So Anthony Gordon has been one of the best FPL assets for me this season. He's kind of a good omen. I start him whenever he's at home, and away from home, I'm very happy to bench him, and in the case of Game Week 34, I did sell him to Eze. That's panned out quite well, but now I'm bringing Gordon back, and I think he's a great option to round off the season. Now, to complete this midfield, I'm also going for Bruno Fernandes, who had another man of the match performance against Sheffield United. He created 9 chances yet again, just like he did in the FA Cup semi-final against Coventry. He had multiple shots, and in this case, he scored a brace and got an assist. So Bruno Fernandes for me is by far the best Man United asset period. I know Dalot and Onana are good options as well, but doubling up on that doesn't seem quite right, and I'll talk about that very soon. But one thing you can be sure of is Bruno Fernandes in his current form. 7 goals in his last 6 Premier League games with great underlying numbers. He was quite a poor FPL option for most of the season, but that's no longer the case. And with those fixtures and a double in Game Week 37, just buy the Portuguese international. And finally, to round off the midfield, I'm going for Heung-min Son, one of the best picks on the wild card, and I also sold him a couple of weeks back. And whenever Son is in my team, he delivers. And when I sell him, he actually tends to blank. So I'm very happy to reintroduce him into my team with 2 doubles in a matter of 3 game weeks and some good fixtures at the very end of the season. But the next 3 games look really tough for Tottenham Hotspur. They can score goals. Heung-min Son is by far their best option. You could even double up with a Brennan Johnson or Maddison in the midfield. And don't forget, Richarlison is back in training. He could be another one to think about on the wild card. But this midfield 5 offers balance. You're covering 5 of the best attacks in the country. Some great FPL options in incredible form in the case of Gordon and Bruno Fernandes. Of course, Cole Palmer as well before that illness. And we've got a lot of potential with this attack. And I'm going to talk about this also in the forward line, where there are some big changes and big decisions to be made, because there's one player in particular that I don't fully trust. I have to make this very clear. I'm not a big fan of Nicholas Jackson. I don't fully trust him, but he has good underlying numbers, and more importantly, the quantity of fixtures are looking really promising, and I think Jackson will do very well in one of these matches, probably the Tottenham game. That's where I'm backing him to do very well. He scored multiple goals against them the last time out, although Tottenham were down to 9 men. Things could be very different this time round, but Jackson is capable of some big returns like he did against Everton not so long ago, but he can be very frustrating. I recognise that, and if I had the money, I'd easily go to Ollie Watkins, but I don't have those funds. I would need to make a big downgrade elsewhere, and it might depend on the fitness of a certain Norwegian. But the final component of my starting 11, as things stand, is one of the best forwards in FPL in Isak. But Callum Wilson is back in training, so this could be an issue. But I think Isak will start most games, if not all of them, until the end of the season with the form he's in. And I think at home to Sheffield United, Isak and Gordon could go crazy. Maybe Newcastle concede a few goals in the process, but I would back them to score 2, possibly even 3 goals or more. So I'm very happy with Isak at the moment, although I have some doubts about maybe some rotation with Wilson. Jackson, of course, is a big question mark, and Rasmus Haaland is another alternative I'm considering. He got a bonus point and a goal against Sheffield United, so maybe he'll return to some form. And Burnley at home is a great fixture, which does rival Chelsea's double of Aston Villa away and Tottenham at home. So I think the biggest question for me now is, do I go for Jackson or Rasmus Haaland? And if I was able to make another downgrade elsewhere, I could even upgrade Jackson to Ollie Watkins. So let's talk about this in the next section of this video, which shows you my bench, and I'll talk about the captaincy to round off this Game Week 35 team selection. It might seem absolutely bizarre, but my bench comprises of Onana at home to Burnley. Erling Haaland is first on my bench amongst outfield players. Dalot and Gabriel, and to be honest, I might even put Gabriel above Dalot the way Man United are defending, but I do recognise that North London derby, the importance of that match for both teams, and I think Arsenal will struggle compared to how they did against Chelsea as one particular example. But before I talk about the latest update about Erling Haaland, let's talk about the captaincy, and I'm still going for Palmer at the moment, and Son is my vice, but if Palmer is still a doubt for that first game against Aston Villa, I will change the armband and go for Heung-min Son instead. In terms of other options, even Bruno Fernandes in his current form is a good option. Maybe Anthony Gordon or Isak at home to Sheffield United. I don't think I'd captain Jackson. I think having him is already enough. Captaining him is another different ball game. I'm not going to go there. Trust me on that one. So yeah, Palmer, Son, Gordon, Isak, Bruno Fernandes, probably my top 5 picks for the captaincy. And I wouldn't even discount Phil Foden away to Nottingham Forest. But let's actually talk about Erling Haaland and the latest injury update. Remember, this video and podcast is recorded before the Man City versus Brighton game. So yesterday on the Wednesday, Guardiola said Erling is not ready for tomorrow. Foden and Stones are ready, but according to FPL Main Road, Haaland will not be out for long, and I think he could be back for Game Week 35, and if not, he should be available for Game Week 36 and almost certainly for Double Game Week 37, where Haaland is going to be the most popular captaincy option if he's fit. So it's not looking too good for Haaland at the moment, but I still back him to be fit for either Game Week 35 or 36, and I've got 4 flag players at the moment, including him, Palmer, Gusto and Pedro Porro in my 15-man squad. This team is subject to changes, there's no doubt about that whatsoever. Keep your eyes peeled for future content like the updated Wildcard Team and also the deadline stream. So you're up to date with everything you need to know in FPL and you have a very good idea of what to do for Double Gameweek 35. But let me now show you Drafthound and see what they're suggesting for my FPL team. And after that, I'll refer to fpl.team to show you this 50-man squad for the wildcard and how it would look like in Gameweek 36, 37 and Gameweek 38. There is a link to Drafthound in the description below. I'd highly recommend you check it out. And many of you are signing up using my link and talking about how useful this website is. And if you look at the player rankings, a lot of the players in my wildcard team are actually in the top 10 for expected points over the next 3 game weeks. I'm only missing De Bruyne and Brennan Johnson really. And of course, let's see what the latest injury updates are on Palmer and Haaland once we get them. And if we look at their suggestions for my team and the starting 11, they have gone for this. Phil Foden on the bench with Gabriel and Dalot, also Onana. So they've gone for Edison as well, Pedro Porro, Gusto and Burn as the back three. So that's exactly the same. But the midfield and forward line looks a bit different. They recommend Haaland over Foden. That's the key change there. And the captaincy is still on Palmer with Son as the vice, but that will change if Palmer is ruled out of the first game or he remains a major doubt for that Aston Villa fixture. So that's what Drafthound are recommending. I think the player rankings is the best tool they have to offer. They also show you the best wildcard and free hit teams for every single game week, and there is much more you can do with this website. You can check the fixture ticker, you can compare any players of your liking and much more. There's the player scouting to identify the ultimate differentials as I've shown you in previous videos and podcasts. But let's now move on to fpl.team and show you how my squad will look like in the future game weeks, and there aren't many left in this season. This is provisional of course, but in Gameweek 36 I could start Edison in goal at home to Wolves with Dalot, Gabriel and Burn as the back three, Foden, Bruno Fernandes, Gordon, Palmer and Son as the midfield five with Haaland and Isak up front. On the bench I'd have Onana, Jackson, Gusto and Pedro Porro and a decent expected points figure of 62.7, and of course I do have free transfers to make some changes as we go along. In Double Gameweek 37 I could bench boost with this, have 14 Double Gameweek players and Gabriel, and I could even turn him into another Double Gameweek player if I wanted to, maybe Van Heck or another defender. I am struggling to choose that fifth one, to be quite honest with you. I'm not even entirely happy by going for Dalot and Onana as a United defensive double up because they concede far too many chances, but in isolation I think Dalot and or Onana can produce a big return in the remaining game weeks of this season, particularly in Gameweek 37. But as you can see, it's a lot of double game weeks. It looks promising on paper. Let's see if it actually delivers in the very end. And finally, if we look at Gameweek 38, I could still have a pretty good team with Edison in goal at home to West Ham, Gusto, Gabriel and Pedro Porro as the backline, Foden, Bruno Fernandes, Palmer and Son as the midfield four with Jackson, Haaland and Isak up front, and the bench comprised of Onana, Gordon, Burn and Diogo Dalot, and once again over 60 expected points. I could even buy a Saka or maybe even Salah, but at this stage of the season I'm not even sure if I want Salah. Let's see if he delivers and responds against West Ham, but I'm quite happy to go without Salah for the rest of the season. As for Saka though, in the final game of the season against Everton, I really think he could be a great option, so maybe selling Son or Bruno Fernandes would be a better one, and I do have 2 free transfers to make it possible. Now if Haaland does miss out in Gameweek 35 and he's a doubt for the other game weeks in 36 and 37, I could actually just sell him and downgrade him to an Ollie Watkins or a Rasmus Højlund, and that opens up the fund so much and I can make some big improvements in other positions. And just to show you some key changes and stuff I talked about in the best wildcard team, I've got the likes of Vicario in here instead of Edison. I've also got Fabian Schär instead of Burn. And apart from that, most of it is the same. But Gvardiol is also in this 50-man squad. So let me know if you prefer this wildcard team I talked about the other day or the one I've talked about throughout this video and my current team for the team selection. Of course, there's a lot to discuss. There's a few 50-50 calls that could go either way. And ultimately, a lot of this is subject to changes. And it's about finding that balance and loading up on the right teams. I think selling Arsenal players to buy these Chelsea, Spurs assets and even Man United could backfire, but with the sheer quantity of fixtures, it could pay off still, and it's all a matter of getting that spot on with the wildcard, and that's what I'm hoping to do to round off the season in the best way possible. And of course, the bench boost in 37 will be pivotal. I don't normally leave it for that late in the season or place that much emphasis on a bench boost, but it really could work out in Double Gameweek 37. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Let's get this video to over 200 likes and let's keep on pushing towards 25,000 subscribers and beyond. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the other links in the description below for the Patreon, Championships Discord server, the FPL League, FPL Challenge, Drafthound, as well as Spotify and Amazon Music. Leave a 5-star review on those podcasts as well. I wish you all the best of luck for Double Gameweek 35 and the rest of the season, and I'll see you next time.